Cursor is lying to developers. Video by Basic Dev. Let's see what they got going on. Bash Crew.
Well, it's another day and another message from our AI overlords telling us that software engineers will lose their jobs 6 to 12 months from now.
Thank you.
Fuck no!
Thank you.
Well, the Cursor team was done with just talking, and they were going to put that $2.3 billion of VC funding
29 billion. Jesus Christ. These companies are fucking loaded. Imagine what $29 billion will do. Like, imagine $1 million 100 times 100 of that times 29 of that. Golly.
No longer need these pesky engineers. They set up an interesting experiment. They let hundreds of AI agents run for a week straight working on a single project. The goal was to build a fully functioning browser from scratch, which is impressive since building a browser that can support all the current modern day web features is insanely complicated. Even Microsoft can't pull it off. So how did this experiment go? Well, there were a few road bumps, let me just say that. At first, they kind of let the agents loose to do whatever they want. They would say, hey, I'm in this file doing this, and then they would lock the file or resource so other agents wouldn't be working on it at the same time. And problems started to instantly arise. Agents would hold locks for too long, sometimes even forgetting to release them. It started to get so bad that 20 agents would do the throughput of 2 to 3, while the others would just wait. The system started to fall apart.
I got nothing on a name. Come on, baby, what's the name?
Agents would fail to hold locks on files that are already working in, or they would lock files again, even though they said, hey, I'm already working in this one. Just the coordination was starting to get completely off. And this is where one of the funniest lines came from this article. With no hierarchy, agents became risk averse. They avoided difficult tasks and made small, safe changes instead. No agent took responsibility for hard problems or end-to-end implementation. This led to work churning for long periods of time without progress. Maybe these agents were thinking exactly like developers because, hey, sometimes in planning, you gotta go for the easy tasks, the easy wins, and leave the hard stuff to the other guy next to you. I'm not gonna lie. But since no progress was being made, the Cursor team went with a different approach. Instead of going with a flat structure where all agents are equal, they decided to split them up into planners and workers. Planners would look through the code base and make tasks for the workers to do. They could also spawn little minions that can make tasks themselves, making the whole process parallel and recursive, while workers would pick up tasks and focus entirely on finishing them. They don't coordinate with other workers or worry about the overall big picture. They just grind on their assigned tasks until it's done, and then they push their changes. At the end, a judge agent would take a look at the work that was done and determine whether to continue or to fire all of his planners and workers and start fresh again. And with that, all experienced developers are having PTSD because the Cursor team just reinvented the corporate hierarchy. Planners are just product owners and judges are just our manager, and we are the workers droning away at the tasks that were handed to us, hoping we don't get pipped next cycle. Maybe
It
AI
works.
isn't so
It's
different
kinda
from
like-
us. Maybe AI is just the
Yeah, it's kind of like with AI, right? It's crazy how much it mimics real life people. Like you have neural networks to mimic the human brain, and then on top of that, you have like they're bringing up right now. They're basically saying like the structure of like which they were completing the task was basically like a corporate hierarchy. It's crazy how much like we're basically building a better human that doesn't have to sleep. Well, I mean the constraint of power grid, or of power, or of readily available utilities, electricity, shit like that. So other than that, they don't have to really sleep or to stop working.
that we made along the way. Well, this structure was left to run for a week straight with no human intervention. At least we assume no human intervention. And it wrote 1 million lines of code through 1,000 files. And remember, they said they used trillions of GPT 5.2 tokens. They never gave a breakdown of input versus output tokens. And let's say this is for only 1 trillion tokens used. This could have cost anywhere from $3 to $5 million just for that week run. So let's see what they were able to produce.
Imagine being able to build anything.
Base is trash, by the way. Don't use base 60 or 44.
No, your screen did not break. What you just saw there was a $5 million browser in action. In the demo, it looks like it tries to load Apple's website and Medium.com. Even though it might look bad, let's give them the benefit of the doubt because browsers are really, really difficult to implement, especially from scratch. So this isn't that bad for a week's worth of work. They were even generous enough to publish it all on GitHub for...
This reminds me of by the way, I'm eating protein chocolate bar. Fuck it, right? This reminds me though of like if you know that one leak code problem, browser history. I spent so much time on that. Jesus, or the LRU cache. Ooh, fuck. I never want to see that problem. I mean, I mastered it, right? But Jesus.
Us to run. But there was a slight problem. If you tried to pull this project and run it yourself, it would not compile. Keep in mind this project was written in Rust, so that means the agents never did a cargo build or a cargo check, because when users did that, tens of errors popped up and hundreds of warnings, which led to some funny replies in the PR. Is there a CI that actually worked? The blog post mentioned something like it might look like just a screenshot, but blah blah blah. Is the screenshot the thing we're supposed to be impressed by? Because for all intents and matters, this project does not contain a functioning web browser by any measurements, and I'm not sure how anyone could have successfully ran this, at least with the code as it is right now. And the creme de la creme, investors can't read code and don't even know what GitHub is. The computer programmed itself so line go up. Brr. With this much backlash, the original developer at Cursor running this project had to put out a fix, and some suspect the fix was put in place by him and not done by the agents. That's because the git log for the project is kind of weird. Multiple commits from multiple different accounts, some from the original project founder, while others are from the bot, some are from Ubuntu, and some are from Google Labs, the Jules bot. But that's just hearsay. You don't really know what's going on there. But things didn't get easier for the Cursor team because people started to dive down into the code. It was a mess with no intent behind it at all. And even worse, it looked like the Cursor team was making some false claims. They had claimed that the AI agents had written an HTML parser, CSS parser, implemented JavaScript and CSS selector matching, SVG rendering, all from scratch. But if you take a look at the cargo toml file, which has a list of dependencies for your Rust project, you'd realize that these features weren't coded from scratch and instead were libraries that they had imported from other
the problem
places.
with AI is that it's like it has no sort of authority over any code. In my opinion, it's like, okay, it's like you tell it to do something. It's like, okay, I'll do this. And then it's like, no, I just told you to do this. The best practice is this. And it's like, no, it's like if you'll ask it, you'll be like, hey, no, I told you to do this. The best practice is this. Is that not, I mean, is that true, right? Like, I don't know, maybe we can do it like that. Like you suggest something. It's like, you're completely right. Like, it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, I need like somebody who's going to help me, not like a fucking yes man. Like, you could be implementing the worst fucking fix in AI and it will still say, oh, you're fucking right. Jesus Christ, man.
For example, the HTML parser and CSS parser were actually taken from Servo, which is a completely separate open source Rust-based browser. And for their JavaScript engine, they used Quick.js, which the maintainer of this project and the person running this experiment said, I do want to briefly note that the JS VM is custom and not Quick.js. And that quickly backfired when users put their JS VM to the test. They ran an ACID-3 test on the browser, which tells you how many web standards it actually meets. For example, let me run it on Firefox. As you can see, it gets a score of 97 out of 100. So how does the Cursor browser score? Well, it couldn't even run the test because the custom JS VM was not able to execute it correctly. And a lot of developers had already suspected this. When they saw that it was a Rust-based browser, they assumed it was just taken from Servo or uses a lot of Servo implementation or has knowledge of Servo's code base, so it starts to just reuse that. But they never suspected that it would just import it straight from their project. Though the Cursor team pushed back on some of these claims. Some of the dependencies were not actually used and some were changed and altered, and no direct code from Servo was used within the project. But I think the Cursor team didn't look through all the code yet because there are strong overlaps in places there shouldn't be. For example,
I mean, how are they going? 1,000,000 lines of code is absolutely nuts. And it's a lot of technical debt. And you got to understand what's going on. You got to understand the code base, and then the way AI structures code is absolutely atrocious.
And I'll be completely honest, I am not a good enough developer to judge how well this browser was implemented. But luckily, there were some people replying that were good enough. Gregory Turson, a contributor and overall architect of Servo, replied to this project. I have explained at length why your fleet of autonomous agents failed miserably at building something that could be seen as a valid POC. One example, your rendering loop does not follow the web specs and makes no sense. The above design document is simply nonsense, typical AI hallucinated BS. Detailed critique, and he sent another comment about what critique he said. The actual code is worse. I can only describe it as a tangle of spaghetti. As a browser expert, I can't make much, if anything, of it. In comparison, when I look at code in Ladybird, a project I am not involved in, I can instantly find my way around the code because I know the web specs. So I agree, this isn't just wiring up dependencies, neither is it copied from existing implementations. It's a uniquely bad design that could never support anything resembling a real-world web engine. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think AI could be leveraged to build a web engine, but not by unleashing autonomous agents. You need humans in the loop at all levels of abstraction. The agents should only be used to bang out features, reusing patterns established or vetted by human experts. If you want to do this the right way, get
That's
in
what
touch.
I'm saying. Like, AI does not have any sort of authority over its code. Like, it just says, "You're right. Let me do this." Right? Like, it's like, oh man. Like, I mean, like, it does it. I mean, I guess it's like its purpose does exactly what you want it to do, but it's a good tool at best. I don't think this is replacing human. At least not for another decade, right? Like, I mean, it's crazy how much progress we've made. But AI has already only existed since, like, if I'm not mistaken, like the 60s. So like it's taken it all the way up until now in order to grow what it is. But I mean, with tech, things snowball super duper fast. So maybe within the next decade, it makes something completely different. Because if you told me in 2016 what artificial intelligence was as a 16-year-old, I'd be like, what the fuck are you lying? But, you know, I've always known about machine learning because it's always been a concept. I'm like, oh, you know, like I've always picked it up like, oh, my iPhone is understanding that my name is, you know, so Bashir, right? You know, it's not saying my name is Samir or something right now, right?
Just a great way to toss his ad in there, which I have to toss some respect to. I think Gregory's message puts it best. These AI agents didn't build a browser. They built something that they thought was a browser. They didn't use web standards. They didn't follow conventions. They hallucinated and created a monstrosity that they can barely understand.
That's what AI does. It's a good tool at best. You need human validators. Too much hallucination. It's your boy Bash Speaks. Or no, this is Bash Reacts. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to join the Bash crew. Love y'all, family. Deuce.